I'm always down for the odd tactical strategy game, and today's review scratches that itch. Triangle Strategy is a turn-based tactical strategy game much like Final Fantasy Tactics for example, but utilises the visual presentation of the HD 2D style of artwork that Octopath Traveler is best known for. This allows sprites similar to the ones found during the heyday of Square's Super Nintendo and PlayStation days to exist in a world with high definition effects and polygonal environments. Combine that with depth, bloom and saturation, and you get a pretty unique visual style. For transparency, a copy of this game was provided to me courtesy of a PR network. For me to help explain Triangle Strategy's plot, I do have to cover some basic details on the game's world and history. The game takes place in the fictional fantasy continent of Norzelia. The continent is divided up into three nations. You have the Kingdom of Glenbrook, a hereditary monarchy. The Grand Duchy of Aesfrost, a meritocracy where people are recognised for their abilities rather than their birth. And lastly, the Holy State of Hyzand, a theocracy where day-to-day life is dictated by their goddess passing on her commands through her representatives in the state. Each nation has their own source of income. Glenbrook makes a lot of its income through trade, Aesfrost through its iron, and Hyzand through its salt, which is only mined in their nation. Before the events of the game, the three nations were embroiled in the Salt-Iron War, a war that began when Aesfrost grew mad over Hyzand's salt monopoly, so it asked Glenbrook to help, which it agreed, so long as they could have joint ownership of the source where Hyzand mined its salt. However, they failed to breach Hyzand's walls, known as the Goddess's Shield. Eventually, Glenbrook and Aesfrost were pushed back by a man named Simon Wolffoot, who had been brought into the war by Hyzand. This caused a standstill, and ultimately Simon formed an alliance with Glenbrook to force Aesfrost and Hyzand to end the war. This ended up happening, and Simon and his forces became vassals of Glenbrook. 30 years later, Glenbrook and Aesfrost are celebrating an alliance by having Simon's son Sarah Noah Wolffoot, your main character, being married to Frederica Aesfrost, an illegitimate daughter of the late Archduke of Aesfrost, as well as a Roselle, a race of pink-haired people who are mostly enslaved by Hyzand to mine their salt to repent for their sins of hoarding the salt in the distant past. Sarah Noah's engagement also allows the three nations to engage in a joint mining effort at the Grand Norzelia mines, overseen by Frederica's cousin Dragon Aesfrost. To put a long story short, Dragon discovers something shocking whilst working in the mines, and is assassinated on the order of his cousin Gustadolf Aesfrost. This gives Aesfrost a reason to invade Glenbrook, and war is once again on the horizon. Alongside his steward Benedict, vassals Eridor and Anna, Frederica's teacher Gila, friend and Prince of Glenbrook Roland, and his personal bodyguard and a member of the Kingsguard Huguette, Sarah Noah and Frederica are thrown into the midst of the conflict, with Sarah Noah now taking over as the head of House Wolffoot due to his father's failing health. Where will the choices Sarah Noah and his team lead them? What consequences do they face? More importantly, is this game any good? Find out in The Good. I like the game's story and how the gameplay shapes where it goes. Throughout the game, Sarah Noah and his friends have to make choices on where to go or what to do next, and these decisions are ultimately decided through the Scales of Conviction, a relic owned by House Wolffoot used to guide the Wolffoots on what to do next. These decisions are also tied into a conviction mechanic where throughout the game, Sarah Noah is presented with a question in which she has several answers to choose from. These answers affect a hidden counter which keeps track of Sarah Noah's convictions. What Sarah Noah decides, and even does throughout the game, will raise his morality, liberty, and utility convictions. These convictions can help sway his allies when deciding on the next course of action, and ultimately which ending you get. Unless you did, or in one case didn't do, very particular things throughout the story. These convictions also affect which characters join your party throughout the course of the story, as the game features numerous additional characters who will lend their services to Sarah Noah. Some may be in your camp already, others may be people from Glenbrook, Aesfrost or Hyzand. To top things off, each character has a little side story around them, and you do get to know a little bit about them by taking them into battle and upgrading their abilities. Combined with the books and tidbits you pick up about the world of Norzelia, it makes learning about its history and people interesting as you piece things together. I also liked the gameplay of Triangle Strategy. Gone are the days where I had to buy new weapons or replace broken weapons for characters. Each character in the game has their own weapon which can be upgraded, as well as having their own specialties in battle. Characters like Archibald, for example, is an archer who deals more damage the further away he is. You also have characters like Nav, who specialises in all forms of magic, or Medina, who increases the range and effects of healing items. Having a unique cast of characters with their own specialties really makes experimenting in battle fun, and maybe you can find some strategies to utilise in the battles ahead. You can also take on mock battles at the bar in your camp to help level up your characters and try out those strategies. On top of that, you can also purchase quietus points, which allow you to use special actions that can turn the tides of battle, such as changing the turn order of a character or restoring TP to a character so that they can use their skills. The game rewards you for how you perform in battle by rewarding you with kudos. Performing actions like attacking a character from behind, utilising the terrain, or hitting multiple enemies with an attack will award you with kudos at the end of a battle, so you can buy things like quietus points, skills, and even additional reading material to give you some more background on Norzelia. The exploration sections where you can go around and talk to people also allow you to pick up a lot of the hidden items and get a feel for what's going on. Tying into the convictions, how you battle and even if you buy or sell items can increase them as well. While we're talking about gameplay, how characters interact with the environment adds a whole new level of strategy to the game. Different elements of magic can really change up the battlefield, such as being able to block off enemies using ice, or melting that ice with fire to make water, which you can then shock with lightning. Lightning also travels through all connected puddle tiles, so you can damage multiple enemies. Fire can also remain on wooden obstacles or greenery, or you can create a fire tile by throwing oil and setting it alight with a fire spell or firestone. This will cause units to take damage if they land on the tile or pass through. Combine that with wind to help the fire spread. Making the most of the environment is key to the game, as you are often outnumbered and faced with strong enemies in battle. But to me, it adds another layer of fun and experimenting that I can do. As fun as triangle strategy can be, it does have its flaws, so let's discuss those in the bad. Although I liked the cast of the characters in the game, I felt that character development takes a back seat. Most of the characters appear to be so involved with what's going on, they don't really develop over the course of the game. A shining exception to this rule is Frederica, who becomes a strong and independent character fighting for the freedom of her people to a point where she will go and protect them by herself at a point in the story where Serenoa needs to decide on where to go next. All of the characters, including side characters, have side stories, but most of them seem to be around one of the 7 main characters of Serenoa's party. Some characters who have history of other characters I found are never elaborated on, and it would have been nice to see some of the side characters interacting with one another at camp or throughout the story. I do however appreciate some of the side characters having special lines against certain bosses. It shows there is some character interaction to an extent, but for certain characters whom you hear might have been powerful characters or renowned characters, this is the only way to be reminded of who they actually are. I think having them interact more with one another outside of battle would feel more natural, or even have certain events trigger if you bring certain units into battle. The game's story, while I personally enjoyed learning about the world and what went on in it, can also work against it. There are a lot of cutscenes in the game, and they can drag on for those who prefer to play through it. It's not unusual for some chapters in the game to be split into parts, and some of those parts not even having a battle stage, just dialogue, exploring and decision making. It's also not unusual for the game to have long story segments after a battle too, and optional scenes to view in order to get the full picture behind what other people or other nations are doing or thinking throughout Serenoa's adventures. Tying in with the lack of character development and interactions, some of them who had played a role in the Salt Iron War or during things that might have happened before the start of the game are simply glossed over, and as stated earlier, it's a simple couple of lines between those characters and a boss to make you remember who they actually are. Other than that, I don't have much else to complain about, so let's wrap things up with the opinion. I had fun playing through Triangle Strategy. I like the HD 2D visual style, and I'm looking forward to experiencing it with that Dragon Quest III remake. I like Triangle Strategy's characters and gameplay and how they work hand in hand with the game's story, but the story can work against it by dragging on, so it's not for everyone, and character development for the most part takes a back seat. For those who enjoy games like Final Fantasy Tactics, Fire Emblem, and Langrisser, I think you'll have fun with Triangle Strategy. I took my time playing the game and spent over 60 hours on it, so you'll easily get some mileage out of it. So with that, it's time for my rating. I would give Triangle Strategy a Himalayan salt lamp out of 10. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review. If you enjoyed today's review, feel free to check out some of our other videos and subscribe for more. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram and our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching.